We're going to learn about everything homecoming, hosted by Chris and Debbie. I'm going to turn things over to them and let them introduce themselves and get started.
Thanks, Sally. My name is Chris Rincioni, and I am from Prospect High School. I am our Associated Student Body Sponsor and a Spanish teacher.
Hello, and I'm Debbie Beagle. I'm the Student Activities Director at Vernon Hills High School, and excited for everybody to be here. And I think some of these activities, as we go through them as well, are going to be things that you can take for homecoming. And if you're also just a club advisor and homecoming is not something you're in charge of, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to adapt some of these ideas to your club meetings as well.
So you guys, before we jump into content, as we're going through our slides, you may hear from different IDSA board members from various schools throughout the state of Illinois. Feel free to populate your questions and thoughts in the chat box, and we will address those as we move along.
Great, thanks so much, Jen. So we wanted to start tonight by kind of addressing the current status of homecoming or spirit weeks that we have, because we know that there's a lot of options that schools are looking at here, but also at the same time, some schools have already made some decisions and kind of just getting a lay of the land here. And then after we do that, we're going to talk some specifics in terms of the nitty gritty, all the way from spirit days that can be applied to homecoming week or general spirit weeks at all the way through in-person and virtual events that you can apply hopefully to your school. So for example, at Prospect High School, we really started with a game plan of, in the spring, a homecoming that was already planned, and we already had some contracts out. So maybe you were in that same position, trying to set us up in case we did come back for an in-person. And so we had a full week, which was where we started. You know, we had our hall decorating on Sunday, movie night on Monday, our backyard bash, our talent show, all the way up through some of our traditions, which included coronation, the powder toss, and the dance. At Prospect, we made the decision that we did not want to skip the fall season without doing some type of spirit week. And so we took the approach of an adaptive fall homecoming. In fact, instead of doing a traditional homecoming theme, we just are doing a school spirit theme called Every Night, and kind of playing on the fact that we want to represent that homecoming would have been in the fall, and calling it Homestaying 2020. The idea behind this is that we don't know what the winter or the spring is going to look like, but we do want to make sure that we provide something for our students and really what the community is looking for here. We also wanted to do something to honor the seniors at this time as well. So with our original homecoming week in mind, we kind of approach this as, how do we best represent the original intent and adapt it to the current situations? And as we go through tonight, some of these ideas, hopefully you can steal and borrow, and some you might have to adapt based on the current availability in your buildings. But on Monday, we have no school in our building, so we are going to do outside window decorating. So kind of resembling what hallway decorating would have been, but we're allowed to bring students to campus. They're going to decorate the windows outside. They're going to stay socially distanced and wear masks, and kind of do some of that old school, if you will, fence cupping that the community will be able to see along the outside fence and those outside windows. Tuesday, we're going live with a virtual pep assembly. So this is a recorded video for the first 20 minutes that incorporates students and staff who are in the building and who are practicing. And then we're going to have a live component using the platform Vimeo Live. So we're actually going to do a pie in the face live, and students will be able to vote who they do, and we'll have someone in the car ready to go to pie that person in the face. You do get that live interactive component in the virtual pep assembly here. So that's a platform, if you have Vimeo, that you could adapt in your school. Wednesday, we're doing a senior parade to honor our seniors specifically, and a powder throw. So we're gonna have students come in their car, they're gonna throw the powder and then keep driving. So they'll get kind of that senior quintessential picture, because we wanted to make sure that we kept in tradition with what homecoming traditionally had. And then we have our kickoff to sports, which is a volleyball scrimmage under the lights to represent what the football game would have been. So this approach to homecoming is maybe something that you can adapt to your school, of taking your original week and then adapting based on what you can do. Another approach I'm going to throw to Brian from Deerfield is what Deerfield and Highland Park are doing and how they're approaching the idea of homecoming.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. So I'm at Deerfield High School, and Highland Park High School is in our district. So we've decided we are moving our homecoming to the spring, but we still wanted to do something during this week. So we are currently had another meeting today and going to have another meeting later this week. We're meeting with the kids who normally would be involved in homecoming and are putting together what we're calling right now a viral rivalry. Say that 3 times fast. And the kids actually want to call it the 113 viral rivalry because they said 3 in rivalry rhymes. So they were all excited about that. So some of the things we're doing, these aren't in any order, but some of the things the kids are talking about is still decorating the towns. We have gone into both of our towns in previous years and decorated windows, so still going to do that. We're talking about doing a logo competition and actually having the graphic arts design classes make a logo for the week. We definitely want to get staff involved, and the kids are working on that right now. We've been talking about anything from like having them compete in a game to having them do a little talent show. Videos showing school spirit. The kids, and I called myself an old man during most of the meeting that we were talking about because they really were like, TikTok is where it's at, and this is how we need to do it. So they explained to me, most of you may know this, I did not realize. So here's what we're gonna do, because we're gonna do how many likes means if you're the winner or not. So what we're gonna do is the kids are coming up with 3 TikTok hit hashtags, a Deerfield High School hashtag, a Highland Park High School hashtag, and a 113 viral rivalry hashtag. So then when a Deerfield High School kid posts something on TikTok, it'll be, they have to use 2, the Deerfield one and the 113 one. When a Highland Park one does, they do HP and 113. And that way we can find out what kid gets the most likes, what school gets the most likes, and then what is our like overall likes for the whole district. And then thinking just about competitions, like what are some of the fun things that we can do. So a lot of those things are like either TikTok based, or we're also thinking about, are there ways that we can bring in just a couple kids and do like a basketball shootout and videotape it and then show it to see who got the most baskets, things like that. The kids, we really felt that it was so important for the kids to be the decision makers on the things that we're doing right now. So they're the ones who are in the planning stages for us.
Thanks so much, Brian. We're going to turn it over to another Brian at Lockport Township High School, and he's going to talk about kind of a way to think about adapting homecomings.
Thank you, Chris, and good evening, everyone. So I am not Scott Bakovich, but I have one of his amazing ideas. I had the opportunity to go to one of his Zoom meetings over the summer, and this framework definitely helped me out. It basically took me from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, and you saw already 2 homecoming weeks already purposely planned. What I'm inviting you to do now is to go ahead and think about what your week looked like. That is homecoming 2019, and put it to these 3 columns. So I'll explain each one very quickly. So the feature part is what you did last year. That is, again, homecoming 2019. So everything that you did at night, everything you did during the day, and you'll have a running list. The purpose, the benefit is your why. Why do you do that? And the repurpose is what we hope as a, as a committee that we're going to be able to provide for you. And I'm talking very, very fast because I'm so excited, because I was able to look at the slides and I've already have a homecoming repurposed and ready to go. So let me take you through a couple examples. I believe that everybody has some things in common, like hallway decorations. The purpose, your why, is you're letting students show their creativity, their artistic talent. But if we're going to repurpose it, you can have something along the lines of students changing their virtual backgrounds. We heard from Ted last week regarding that. You could also have students paint the windows outside or outside the school. Got one more slide for you. we all have spirit days. These are ones that usually have to get unpacked right away. Purpose, you want students to build community around a common theme. So your repurpose is that you can have students wear hats, decorate, and have a virtual background. We actually have an even better slide coming right up. So I'm going to turn it back over to Chris to talk more about Spirit Days.
Thank you. And for this, I'm going to throw it to our District 128 team, Jen and Debbie, to hit Spirit Days.
All right, Jen, you on there? All right, so here we go. So again, kind of with the Scott Bakovich mindset of what are some of the things that are feature our purpose and how can we repurpose it? You know, the traditional dress up days, those can still be included, the pajama days, spirit color days, college day, etc. The virtual background day, I know that's one thing that some schools may have a challenge with it. Right now, we're trying to figure out there's maybe a Chromebook extension that we need for our students to change their backgrounds. But the other picture that's visible right now on this slide is one that Stacy from New Cheer brought up last week, where she had people just hold up a white piece of paper and then put the words in theirs in that slide to begin to showcase. So instead of having people hold certain things and trying to get them in an order, they just held up a white piece of paper and then she filled in the words on those. And then, you know, the kind of typical celebrate National Day of whatever the national day is, and then kind of take advantage of students being at home, remote learning. So bring your pet to school day is something that normally nobody would do, although it happened once at Vernon Hills, which was interesting. But anyways, normally that would be not something you would be doing, and some type of outside learning activities.
And as you can see, you guys, you might be able to see my background right now. This is an example of a background that some of us are using, some of the staff, because we are in the midst of Yellow Ribbon Week. So one of our coding teachers put together not only virtual backgrounds like this to celebrate the week, but also like Google Classroom headers. So that's kind of a cool idea if you wanted to incorporate those things into homecoming or any other week that you're celebrating this year.
There's one other feature too that I know works easily with Google Hangouts. It's like, you know, the Snapchat has filters. There's one called Snap Camera. So I know there was a few of you that were maybe are on this that was in a meeting with me earlier today, and I was messing around with the different Snap cameras. So that's just kind of an app that you can add.
And I just really quickly want to do a shout out to Scott Bakovich. He is actually on our call tonight. Hi, Scott. Thanks for being with us.
How are you guys?
Great. And I think in the chat box, he has put in a website. You guys definitely have to check that out.
Yeah, you can go to Involve Schools and check stuff out. There's also tons of advisors on the call. That's good to see faces that we've done virtual trainings with already this year. I've been doing a lot of them each day, and it's been a ton of fun. So it's good to see faces, and thank you guys for having me. It's good to see friends.
Excellent. And Chris, if you want to go to that, there we go. All right, so decorating ideas, thinking of things outside, talking about cup the fence with the message, and there's a sample there. This presentation, by the way, will be posted and will be, all these links then will be live if you want to go back to them. And also if you want to reference this presentation later or the one from last week.
So if you guys look at, oh, I'm sorry, Debbie.
No, go ahead.
If you check out that link there for put in cups, it's super cool. That image down there of the, it looks like an eagle or some sort of flying bird there, that's an example of what you can do with put in cups. Now, the advantage to using these is you can put in whatever you are thinking you want the phrase to say, and it will produce a template for a chain link fence. And approximately how many cups, they're really not cups, they're really these things that fit into a chain link fence. So they will tell you, oh, you need like 300 of these, and then you would purchase them from that company. That's just one example. I know people have used actual cups in their fence to pull off the same idea. It just makes it a little bit more challenging because then you have to design it and figure it out. But with this company, it actually gives you a template for an image or for words. So it's pretty cool.
So then kind of following along with that, the competition to decorate your work or study space. So possibly they could, students could have props or things like that if you're one of the schools that is challenged with changing your virtual background. Another one, which would have been great to do last week when it rained every day, was the chalk, sorry, let me go back. Chalk was not good last week. Chalk is good this week. Rainworks is the other one. It's basically the opposite. So if you, again, click on that link, it's a little video of this stuff that you can buy on Amazon, and you spray it. And then once it rains, then the message shows up. So you could chalk your message, and then you could also do the Rainworks, which is the opposite. I did add on, similar to Jen over at Libertyville, Vernon Hills is also in Yellow Ribbon Week. So our prevention and wellness coordinator is also on this right now, Amy Dillon. Shout out to Amy for coming up with the Chalk Your Walk for mental wellness. And the picture above it is our Vernon Hills High School environmental club advisor, who part of the Chalk Your Walk was challenging clubs to basically call out another club. So the environmental club chalked their walk and then called it out to another club. And they did it individually. Like the club didn't necessarily all meet together. Some club members may have done it individually and then kind of put a collage together, but it was done individually, not necessarily bringing them all together.
And one thing that we're considering that we think we can do safely is one of our signature, not our mascot, but one of our logos is a paw print. And so we are trying to think of ways to build community in the community. So can we do paw prints maybe outside of some of our senior houses, our senior students, or can we incorporate this into a canned food drive, a fundraiser? Maybe you pay $1 and you get a paw print painted on the sidewalk outside your house or on the street outside your house. So we're trying to come up with different ways of building community in the community with our kids, but being able to do it in a safe way.
All right, and then some more virtual activities. Brian already kind of talked about TikTok challenge. The all-school bingo was something that the student council just rolled out, and shout out to, I know Marissa and Robin and Laura from Vernon Hills are on this as well, but their kids came up with this e-school bingo, and also in connecting it with an activity. So if you can see in the lower right-hand corner, or kind of lower right, is the Chalked Your Walk for mental wellness. So it's kind of nice to see student council also connecting to our prevention and wellness group. And so that's something that just rolled out. And I know many people in the past have done like all school bingo, and that was such a hit. So the virtual bingo hopefully is just as exciting, maybe a little different. And then we've got the virtual pep assembly or coronation. I know that some schools are doing that and have talked about that. The trivia game challenge. We've got some character dares from the Character Strong program, and that link is obviously live too. Or I know some schools have talked about some type of virtual homecoming dance. I know that Libertyville and Vernon Hills, we did a virtual prom, and we worked with Anthony from Dance Party DJs, who's on this call, and he'll kind of talk at a slide kind of a little further down. And I know we kind of a little bit talked about class competitions. Maybe homecoming week looks more like school-wide Olympics, and talking about possibly some of those challenges, students would record that challenge and then submit that challenge, so that we're still encouraging them to get involved, but it's, again, virtual, and then submitting that video submission.
So Debbie, can you dive into some of the details with the bingo, specifically how you execute that and how they play and how they get the bingo card and how you guys are giving prizes and stuff?
Okay, I will actually turn it over to the voice herself. If Laura, can you unmute yourself? Laura, or Marissa, or Robin, if you want to share.
Yeah, I can jump in. So we just did it all virtually. I sent out an email to all students with just, you know, a PDF of the bingo card and said, take a screenshot of this. And then if you know that when you take a screenshot, you can like draw on it. So as they went through the day and got, you know, their bingos, they would cross it off. And then once they got 5 in a row, they posted it to their Instagram story and then just tagged our student council Instagram account. So the way that I'm just keeping track of it is like through who I can see on Instagram that reposted their bingo card. It's obviously just all honor system, but more just, we've also, you know, a really good way at the beginning of the year, this has been really helpful because I've seen, you know, our numbers of Instagram followers go up a lot, especially with freshmen. So it's just also a really good way to get people to join those social media accounts and then obviously have that access to them. So we're gonna, at the end of the week, pick 4 winners, hopefully 1 from each class, and then I'm just gonna send lunch, have lunch delivered to their house from Grubhub or something like that.
That's super cool. Thanks, Laura.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. I love the one that says teachers asked, can you see my screen? Because how many times do we all say that to each other? Wait, can you see my screen? All right, and then back to you, Chris, for some in-person activities.
Thanks, Debbie. So maybe perhaps some of you're able to do in-person activities. And so we kind of divided these up into some small scale ideas, whether you wanted to incorporate them into your homecoming week or you wanted to make standalone activities throughout the year. So these are some things that went well. The first one is a scavenger hunt around your town or community. So there's a quick screenshot at the bottom here from Stevenson High School. This could be something that you are, especially if you are like a hometown school, a great way to get students out, outside in the community at a safe distance, working on something. So in this case, you know, students at Stevenson are going from place to place, 5 different locations here. Cougars on Parade. There's an example here in the bottom corner. This is from Vernon Hills High School. Their mascot is the cougar. So they are providing clubs with these, you know, think like the cows of Chicago type of thing with cougars, and then asking the clubs to decorate them and putting them around the community. So it's a great way if your clubs especially can meet, that they could meet and decorate together. If they can't, this is kind of something that if you did a virtual cougar, you could send to people, or an actual one, and then put those around the community. So it's a great way that you can kind of create a community within your community, like Jen mentioned before with that paw print they were thinking. A lot of us are having issues with selling some spiritware because we make a lot of our money that way in terms of how we want to be able to fundraise and then promote or handle one of these. So one of the options is doing some drive-by spiritware. If you set up in one of your parking lots, especially if it's like a 1 in, 1 out, with a couple of tables, that would allow you to sell any type of spiritware, especially if you could kind of space it out. The car drives up, they pay directly from there, especially if your school has a, you know, cash-free option, whether you have like a Square Trade or something like that, makes it even safer because then you don't deal with cash there. Something that we did at Prospect that worked well, we engaged with our seniors last spring through our social media accounts, and we asked them, what was your favorite thing about Prospect? And created a virtual bucket list from the class of 2020. We then were able to connect with them and create this list that as advisors and as current students, we're kind of working off here. So we're working to give our freshmen in one of our contact days coming up soon, whether we meet with them virtually or in small groups, of like, here's a bucket list of things that you can do in Prospect High School over the next 4 years. This is from the class of 2020. But what we did is we went and we made it a COVID edition. So all of the things that normally happen, but we highlighted all of the things that they can do currently in remote learning. So we're hoping, especially in the next month or so, when the newness of school wears off, it'd be a great way to connect with students and show them they still can be involved in one of these other options. And then the last one is Bubble Wrap Fun, which I'm going to throw to John Aldworth because he's the mastermind behind this one.
I'll actually take it. Oh, there you go, John. Go for it.
I appreciate that. It should be bubble with an M or with an L, bubble with an L. This is one that actually you can do if you're having any kids in the halls, even if it's like a very small group. I know a lot of schools are bringing back, smaller numbers of students just to get people in the building. Lining the halls or lining your floors with bubble wrap as they walk in. I know right now we only have about 25 students that are coming in regularly, but I'm definitely planning on doing this for them so we can lay that on the floor as they walk to their classes. Just give them a little something different as they're coming into school, and they're socially distant and safe. So thanks, Chris.
Hey, Chris, before you move on, just a couple of questions regarding the little cougar thingies you have on the picture. Where do you get those and how much do they cost?
So, oops.
Or is that you, Beagle?
That's me, sorry.
Oh.
So kind of like in student activities, we sometimes have like these amazing ideas and like students, we've got some great students that come up with great ideas and they haven't totally come to fruition yet. This would be one of those examples. So it's something that was done probably, I've been doing this a long time. So it was maybe 15, 20 years ago. And my contact person was Raj from R&M Specialties. And I reached out to him today because I'm like, oh, this will be great. I'll just, order them. And the original company is not in business right now. So he is in the works to find me new ones. So I added a little comment in there that I'm hoping to do them, as actual physical ones. And they're kind of like the size of a bobblehead, maybe a little bit bigger. And back when I did them, they were only, I don't know, $15. But so the club then would decorate them and then put them throughout. But if I need to go with some type of virtual or even just kind of like a flat cougar, then maybe so be it. It becomes a flat cougar.
Right, because a recommendation was you could, if you have a 3D printer, you could possibly do it with a 3D printer. Thank you to Jan for that in the chat. This is me. So we've gotten really good at the drive-through. So I created this drive-through of this and that after we did our drive-through graduation in the spring, and we did a senior parade, a senior goodbye parade for our kids. We've gotten really good at it, and we just need to be really careful not to overdo it. But some ideas that we're kicking around would be to ask the kid, obviously this is going to be good for kids that drive. So it's not going to reach all of our students, but maybe we do it specifically for the seniors one day, for the juniors, maybe sophomores if they're able to drive. But doing ice cream treats, we were thinking about decorating our activity bus like an ice cream truck and handing out ice cream treats as kids drive by. Obviously we'd need facilitation between the two vehicles, but that could be fun. Or asking kids before school starts, let's do some packaged breakfast things. Could be little donut holes or breakfast bagels, orange juice. We were also kicking around the idea, and I don't have it listed here, but doing something we used to do in-person hot chocolate Fridays. I know there are many schools that do that. Could we do something where people bring a refillable mug and we pour hot chocolate into it in a drive-through fashion, or already pre-packaged hot chocolates. And then the other idea that's on there, like I said, we're in the midst of Yellow Ribbon Week, and we are in the midst of putting goodie bags that we're calling a bag of sunshine. We're putting those together to pass out to kids that would come onto our campus. And trying to think through really how do we get it to the younger kids, which is quite a challenge.
And I know something along that same lines that we've tossed around at Prospect is we are doing the senior parade during our homestaying week. And while we're not giving anything out that week in particular, one thing we are doing is treating our staff to breakfast that day, because we know staff are going to be out there cheering on the freshmen, or the seniors. And right now, you know, staff morale is probably kind of low in a lot of our buildings here with the times. So building in some of those activities, especially if you have the budget, maybe it's a lesser, you know, cost than providing for all the students, I think is a really important thing for us to think about as we're kind of planning some of these events, especially because a lot of our days have some extra PD time that we could use for some of those kind of morale boosting events.
Chris, can I interject something in there real quick? I know that right now we have two staff members, we have two staff members investigating virtual game night for our staff. So you mentioned the whole staff thing because we're really like kind of thinking about them, and like, so yeah, there's all this stuff going on for homecoming, but like, what about them too? And so we know that there's always those game nights in bars all over the place pre-COVID, but like they're investigating what are our options to do something like that virtually for staff. Just want to throw that out there.
Thanks, Brian. And now moving on to some larger activities.
So Jen talked a little bit about this already with some of the drive-through parades. I feel like, you know, anything where we're trying to keep kids separate. I know I've seen some schools with, you know, kind of marking their parking spots or finding a large area for the drive-in movie nights, the drive-in parades. The laser light show was an idea that one school was talking about. And then it kind of has me thinking, okay, if it's a parade, like, okay, so that's just something that you just have to keep going. So I know that, you know, when it was graduation, we ended up doing an in-person graduation, but it was basically like a bunch of cones lined up for like around our whole, like one entrance into our stadium, one exit out of our stadium. They were basically like 12 feet apart. But like, so I'm thinking, okay, if we're trying to get larger scale things on campus, it's really kind of like going in a line, you know, and how can we do these different things? The other thing is recently at Vernon Hills, our seniors were able to kind of spray paint their names in a nice like time capsule because we're under construction. So they spray painted their names. And that was kind of the same thing, is like you have kids coming in one way and then leaving another way. So then it kind of came to the idea of the mini golf. And Chris, if you can go to that next slide. I did reach out to Rob Brahms. He, some of you may have met him. He was at our IDSA conference. And I said, okay, so do you have, and this was just a picture I found. His might be better than this. So if you're looking at these golf and they're like, oh my gosh, these are bad mini golf. It was just a picture I found. But I said, hey, do you have some type of mini golf? And he's like, yeah, I have 9 holes. And then he's like, well, we have 25, you know, putters, and okay, how can we figure this out? And then we were just like, okay, if we do groups of 3, and then like the student would play it through. So normally you rotate. If, you know, I go, then Jen goes, then Chris goes, and then I go again. But instead, like you kind of have 3 cones that are at the front of it, and then I go and I finish it through. And then I go to the next cone, or like the cone at the end. And then let's say Jen goes and she finishes it through, and then I move over to the next cone and she's, so your groups of 3 or 4, trying to keep it spaced out. We were trying to kind of come up with a time. And similar like golf, you'd have a sign up time, a tee time. And then, like I said, cones kind of set before and after the hole, students playing through, and then maybe they'd hang out there. If this was something that was indoor, maybe you could use your, you know, your sound system in your school and play music. And again, this is one of those ideas that is in the works. of something that possibly when the weather's not cooperating that we can do inside. And then of course I kind of started spiraling a little bit and said, okay, well, what if each, like a club sponsored a whole, and that it could almost be like an activity fair too. Like maybe my anime club is at one. We have our Spark Club at one. Talking about advisors because we have too many kids. But then again, as if you're trying to get it to last an hour, so this would be something that maybe would be good for freshmen because parents could drop them, their kid off. They know that they're a specific time. And then if you want it to get to be about an hour, maybe you add some additional things at the end, or maybe it's, okay, you get to, run through the bubble wrap like that John Aldrich was talking about, or just some different kicking contest, if you will. So it was one idea that has not yet been in place.
So I'm going to stop you there, Debbie, for just a second. And Scott McDermott, I'm going to put you on the spot for just a second because I noticed in the chat that you had a successful event, and we would love to hear about it if you're willing to share with everybody. I think it's related to the virtual game night.
Actually, hi everyone. What we did at Wheaton Warrenville South was we did a senior send-in. So trying to find a way to engage them right away, let them know that we care about them and recreate that community. And so in our building, we have the ability to drive kids through the entire property. And so what we did was we worked with PMMG, Dave Snowball, who's just a wicked genius and can pretty much do anything. He's just a how big do you want to go kind of guy. Prospect uses him, and so does Glenbrook North right now. And what Dave did was he came out to our campus and wanted to know what our thoughts were. And then, he kind of sketched out what a laser light show sound event would look like in a drive-through capacity. So when kids came onto campus, we had lined up all of our activity buses and we lit them up with different colors. We had the drum line greeting every car as they came in. The kids drove around a circle, and on the side of our field house was a moving animation that had our logo and a bunch of stuff dedicated to the class of 2021. And then they worked their way around the edge of the building to a pretty cool laser light show. And then around to the front of the building where the staff was waiting to greet them all. They also had, Dave, his company does stuff all over the country, but he's probably most known locally for the laser light shows at the Brookfield Zoo. So this is his industry, and he's just finding ways to work with schools right now. So it was a big hit, and we're trying to find different ways to keep engaging him. But I've never heard Dave. I think Mirandola's on here. Frank, I've never heard Dave say no to anything. He finds a way to figure out how to make it awesome. We call him Awesome Dave. So that's what we did. We got a lot of great feedback, and lots of feedback from kids and parents.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it looks like the contact information for PMMG is in the chat.
Yes.
So you can reference that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And then I see a lot of questions real quick about drive-in movies and sort of the safety of that. Is there anybody in the group who has actually executed this? And how do you deal with some of the concerns about kids being in their cars, maybe bringing things that they shouldn't have, supervision, all of that stuff as it relates to a drive-in?
The only thing that I can speak to is that we've done a drive-in for a couple of years now before COVID. So there's really, when we talked about what rules are, because we said, well, do we have to keep it at 50, only 50 cars or 50 people? And the way that we've kind of interpreted the law is a car is its own space. So they're not getting out of their car. We're not letting them walk around. We're not letting them go get anything. They're staying in their car. What the rules that we would put out there is, you should be be only with people in your household, in your car. We know that if we do that, they're gonna come with their friends. It's gonna happen. It already did when we did book pickup. It already did when we did yearbook distribution. We told them to come, but when they pulled up with 3 of their friends in the car, that was a family decision that they made. I'm not telling them they're not, and we're not really going to be monitoring and going through, are you really a household? Let me see your IDs. Are you from the same place? So we just want to make sure that we put the rules out there that are clear. This is what you should do, but we're not going to start asking for IDs to make sure that they're all from the same house. I know it's not the best, and yes, when you think about a dance, could kids do inappropriate things in their car? Yes. The unfortunate thing is they're already doing inappropriate things at our school dances when we have them, and we do our best to monitor that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks, Brian. And I see that Scott put in the chat, a nice alternative is the Chrome extension for Netflix Party. So thank you, Scott, for that suggestion.
Perfect. So we talked a little bit about vendors tonight, and we did want to throw it over to Anthony at Dance Party DJ because he has a lot of options. So if you are thinking about either homecoming or some of the events, some we can pull off ourselves, some we need some vendors for. Things like if you wanted to do a drive-in. And so Anthony really is a guy who has a bunch of tools, and he's local in the suburbs and able to travel. So Anthony, thanks so much for being on tonight. If you want to tell us a little bit about what you guys can do and what you've seen so far, we'd love to anything and everything.
Sure. Can you hear me okay? I know I'm not as used to Zoom as all the teachers on this. Okay. So we've been kind of talking with schools the last month and a half or so, just generically as we no one really was committed a month ago to anything, but what we've been talking about, and I've been getting feedback from schools and just kind of feeling out what everyone's planning on doing, what there's been interest in. And we kind of divided everything into 3 different sections, one being virtual only. Some schools are only doing virtual only events, and looks like you guys have talked about some of those things on here already. Then other schools at one point in time were trying to do maybe smaller indoor events. I haven't heard of any schools actually doing anything like that. But the overwhelming majority of what we've been focusing our time on are outdoor events. So it seems to be that most of the schools are allowing some version of outdoor activities, whether that be, a drive-in or something of that nature, as long as it's socially distanced to a certain extent. The overwhelming majority of what people have been asking us about has been a drive-in experience, whether that be a movie, a concert, things of that nature. So I would say 3/4 of all the schools I've talked to have asked about drive-in movies, and starting from there. So there's 2 different ways you can do a drive-in movie. Some of you have done this probably before in the past. We've done them, over the years as, movies on the football field. It's basically the same thing, but just set up a little bit differently and different way to do audio. But you can do a big, huge inflatable screen with a projector. That works just fine for just doing movies. A better way to do it is, an LED wall. There's a lot of advantages to doing that. A disadvantage being the cost. It's not just a little bit more than the screen and projector, it's substantially more. So the idea we've come up with is kind of a multi-day, outdoor event. So maybe you bring this equipment out, you do a drive-in movie night 1, whether that be Thursday night or Friday night. Then that Saturday morning, or maybe Friday night, you do a drive-in movie number 2 for maybe the other half of the students that could, maybe do a seniors only drive-in movie, a juniors only drive-in movie. Because if you're looking at your big parking lot at your school, and if you space the cars out every other spot, you're not going to be able to fit everybody in. So, maybe do an underclassmen event, where they can sit on a field or something like that, since they're not going to have cars. Then Saturday morning, you do something fun like, a game show or, video game contest, something like that, utilizing this equipment that's already there. Then maybe finish off the weekend with kind of a drive-in concert sort of thing. You guys are talking about, light show and things like that. That would be kind of an element of that, where the students stay in their cars, they can watch the lights and visuals on the LED wall, and like I said, lasers and stuff going, and then have music to go with it that they can pipe through their car. Basically, this idea came up was just a way to utilize one system that you're paying for to do multiple things, because to do an outdoor event, there's certain expenses that are accumulated that you probably don't have to deal with when you're just doing a dance in your gym or something like that. So the thought is that we try to take this equipment. It doesn't really cost much more to leave it there for day 2 or day 3, other than staffing and maybe generator and stuff like that. But you figure out creative uses to use this drive-in experience to try to appeal to as many students as you can, because you might only be able to do 100 students here or 50 students there, or 250 for a drive-in movie, something like that. So if you add those all up, you're getting half your student population, the half that probably wants to do something like this. So just a thought, and all these ideas I've kind of other than the movie night stuff, these ideas were all like feedback we had from schools, the video game stuff, the game show, Battle of the Bands. So, those are all just ideas. And if your school does a talent show that week, and obviously it's, not going to happen this year, maybe you do it outside on a stage and, as part of this, and then we could stream it to everyone that can't attend too. So, just a thought we had, but we can do just about anything for these, outdoor movie nights, or anything involving power distribution, or, all the logistics stuff that you don't really think about until you need it for an outdoor thing. So it's just, I guess, it's good that I wanted to come on here actually to just hear who's, what schools are allowing certain things, or what the rules are. And so I'm glad that you guys allowed me to come on here, because this is really informative. So.
Is there any, maybe Brian, you can speak to this, or anyone else who's done drive-ins, a question about what movies have you shown, or what would you guys consider showing in your drive-in?
How you're like, oh, I can answer that question. And then you're like, wait, what movies did we show? But so I've been frantically looking through my email. And I know that we did last year was High School Musical. But then we also did a twofer. So we did Monsters Inc. as well too. So we kind of did one on the earlier side that was for like younger kids. So we did Monsters Inc. and then High School Musical. I don't remember what we did 2 years ago, but if my sponsor texts me back, I'll let you know.
Jen, if I can add one thing, Anthony, you talked about like doing outside things, and you talked about a talent show. One of the things that's a big deal at Vernon Hills is this kind of kickoff dance that we've done, and the seniors kind of do this little lip sync. It's basically skits.
Yes.
But anyways, we were trying to figure out, like, it's a big deal for our seniors, albeit completely silly. We were like, how can we actually pull this off? And again, this is another idea that hasn't come to fruition yet. So if it works out well, then, you guys, I'll make sure everyone knows. And if it doesn't, I can also tell you that. But we were thinking, okay, if we used our stadium, and like we use one end of the bleachers for 50 kids, you have a separation of 30 feet, which would be the center, where maybe normally the parents would sit during a game. And then we use another 50, on the other side of the bleacher. So all on one side. And then we still have then the field itself is a space, which is 50 participants, and we keep them 30 feet from the bleachers. But then we were like, okay, well, how are we going to keep these kids separated in the bleachers, right? So then if you remember those cheap seat cushions you used to get back in the day? We were like, okay, well, what if we had, got those cheap seat cushions, got there ahead of time, and placed 50 of those kind of separated, and then another 50 separated on the other spot. And then, depending on kind of like a movie theater, are you like, if you are sitting, or if you're going to be at movie theater 1, you're going to enter through this entrance. If you're at movie theater 2, you're going to enter through this entrance. So we'd have the groups of 50. If you're thinking COVID and you're like, okay, we got to think they can't cross contaminate. So we'd have 50 come in one side, 50 come in another, and then maybe run that performance a couple times and have the students sign up like via Sign Up Genius or some kind of ticket app, if you will, to, you know, be able to monopolize the outdoor time. And so far when we've had kids on campus, they're so excited to come on campus for like the silliest thing that they've been pretty respectful of walking cone at a time and wearing masks. So let you know if that works out.
It looks like Ted had asked, he did mention the difference between LED wall and inflatable. Yes, Ted, you can use the LED wall all day. You know, that way you get a full day's worth out of it. That's one of the advantages over your traditional inflatable screen where you have to wait till it's pitch black out to start the movie. So,
Anthony, have you guys ever done multiple screens? So if you had your parking lot and then you had another like way off in the distance in another location, can you show the same movie in 2 locations?
Yeah, we definitely can. So I know you guys have, a lot of schools don't have just one gigantic lot. So you're kind of, divided into a couple different parking lots. We've done that a couple of times. I would say most of the time it's just one spot and they just set it up in a way that, you know, it'll be curious to see because we haven't actually done one yet. They're coming down the pipeline here. You know, how many students attended, because traditionally when we do an outdoor movie, it's 200 to 300. You know, it's not, you know, like a homecoming dance attendance type of thing. It's a few hundred students. A lot of times they're underclassmen. In this case, it'll be interesting to see if the upperclassmen will go to this, as if you kind of make it one of the weekend events or whatever on your homecoming week or whatever. My assumption is you're going to get more turnout than you would for a traditional outdoor movie night on a Thursday night before the homecoming game on a Friday night kind of thing. But I don't know. We'll find out, I guess, next weekend. So.
And then one quick thing before we turn it over to John Aldworth to kind of talk about next week's TNT. Just again, thanking everybody for being here and being so collaborative and working together, because this is like huge networking with everybody. It's like most of us feel like we're on this island to begin with and navigating this territory that's the unknown. And it's so nice to be able to kind of share our successes, share our challenges. And, you know, I don't want to give COVID credit for anything, but one thing is I feel like it's really like activities. It's so important. And I think the focus is so, I think people are recognizing that. And even so families are like, wow, my kid really needs to get involved. And so I really appreciate the IDSA group, the support, and everybody coming in and the people I work with, because without this group, we certainly have a challenge. So thank everybody for joining. And I'm gonna turn it over to John to talk about our next TNT.
All right, first, thanks a lot to Chris and Debbie and everyone who contributed on this slideshow. I think this is great and so timely as we're trying to figure out, you know, what everybody is going to do. So next week we start, we're actually going to start a series on equity as a foundation for student activities. We're going to talk about equity, race, and inclusivity within student activities. So a little deeper than, you know, the conversations have been the last 2 weeks. And I think the idea is once a month, Joaquin Stevenson, who is my counterpart over at Maine East, is going to join me. I guess I should introduce myself. I'm over at Maine West as the Associate Principal for Student Experiences, which encompasses student activities and all experiences that students have when they walk through the door or this year stay at home. And we're really looking into making sure that all of our students feel comfortable, feel included, looking at data to ensure that they are, and just really having some conversations about ways that we can utilize the power of student activities for more than just having fun. So that's going to be our focus next week, and once a month from there on out. So thank you very much. And I believe Joaquin was here, but I wasn't sure if he was able to stay. So I wanted to give him a chance to introduce himself as well, if he's here.
Hey, John, thank you. Joaquin Stevenson, he, him, his. Yeah, John and I are just so excited to be able to present to all of y'all next week as we tackle equity as a foundation for student activities. And so the idea here is for us to take 6 weeks as a start. We'll be focusing on race for the first 2 weeks. We'll be focusing on LGBTQ plus identities for the week 3 and 4. And also 5 and 6 will be focusing on our transgender students and how to make student activities most welcome for all of our kiddos. Thanks, John.
All right. Thank you, Joaquin. And then I will toss it back to the IDSA.
Great. Thanks so much, John, Joaquin. We're just going to end tonight here because we want to be cognizant of your time. We said that we would be done by 9. We do have a post-discussion survey that we're going to throw in the chat here for you. We would love, it's pretty quick, your feedback. What did you gather? What are you looking for in these future sessions? Because while we have equity coming up and some of those and on the timeline, we all also are looking for some topics and want to be responsive to what you guys are looking for as we prepare some of our future TNT sessions for you. So if you could take that discussion, that survey, that would be great. That link is going in the chat now for you. It's also live on this PowerPoint. And then we'll be around here in the Zoom for a little bit longer. If you guys have specific questions that you would like to answer, in case we didn't get into them in the chat, or you have some other questions that popped up. But on behalf of all IDSA and Debbie and myself and Jen, we really want to thank you so much for coming out tonight. We learned just as much as you guys do. So thank you so much for the collaboration.
Thanks, everyone.
And I just also want to just say goodbye to everybody. And I said this at the ending last week, and I just want to repeat it again. Don't worry if you're not all on the same page. And if you're looking at the list of things that happened, if you're a little behind, if you're a lot behind, if you're a little ahead, it's okay. Take a breath. You can do this, and we're here to help you. So don't worry if you don't have all these things planned out for your school yet. That's why we're here. None of us are perfect. None of us have it all done and completely ready. We're still looking for those cougars to paint, right, Debbie? So it's okay. So don't worry about it. But we're here for you. And again, we'll stand for a few minutes if anybody needs anything. But please fill out that survey. It makes our presentations better. We hope.
And just a reminder, if you go to our IDSA website in a couple days, this recording will be posted for your reference. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Good luck to everybody.